Hello YouTube, it's Sam from Sam's Garden Maintenance, and in this video, well, it's another workshop one, and as the title suggests about the old hourly rate and how do you get to it, I think this is an important video. I think it's very important if you're just starting out and you basically don't know what to charge, and you're basically thinking, well, how am I going to be worth what I'm worth to the customer? Well, the answer is to that is, well, you're only worth what you are actually worth. Customers, unfortunately, will see it a bit different than that. But at the end of the day, you need to know roughly where you're at and what you need to be charging. And hopefully this video will give you them answers. Now, I am not a trained business guru or anything. I did research when I started, and this is basically what worked for me. And from what I can gather, it's pretty much basically the sort of the right way of doing it. Obviously, everyone's going to have their own way of doing it. Obviously, this might not be the best way, it might not be the worst way, but I think if you watch it and you take some lessons from it, I think it will help you. So first off, we need to look at our costs first. Now, I'll start off by saying my costs are going to be completely different to your costs. Your costing is going to be completely different to the next bloke. And this is why I don't talk about pricing or anything like that, because it might send somebody down the wrong path. Now, I did actually look online, and according to Checker Trade, the average hourly price for a gardener is £30 an hour. Now, I know that if I went and told somebody that, or customers that, you wouldn't get through the door. They would not be interested, because they'd be thinking, well, you know, when I was working, I was only on £8, £10, £12, not 30. And to be fair, it doesn't matter what the price is. I think we're worth what we're worth at the end of the day. Whether, you know, somebody does a job for £100 and it just so happens that that's an hour, then, and they do a good job and they put a lot of work into it, well, it's what they're worth at the end of the day. It's up to the customer whether they want to. So you can definitely earn £30, you could definitely earn £15, you could definitely earn £100 an hour. It's all how you do it and what you leave behind and the impression you make and the way you go about it. So that's just a little bit of a you know, waffle there. Now, like I said, we need to work out what our basically costing is for ourselves and us as people. Now, this is all what you have, so this is not business. So I call this, when I did this, I called this survival income. Now, obviously, my costs are different. I still live at home, and basically, you know, if I was to look at my actual costs are really stupidly low. I could survive on next to little, basically. But what's the point of me telling you my costing? It's fucking stupid. It'd be ridiculous. It would send you down the rhubarb. Now, I don't plan on living at home forever. There's been setbacks, whatever, but I will be moving out at some point, and I need to be basically making sure I am charging what I'm charging to live. So I'm going to put this into the circumstances of somebody who is living independently. I'm not going to go into if you've got children or anything, but basically you can pick and choose, but most people will probably have all this. So your situation is going to be different than mine. Your situation is going to be different than Joe Blogg's. So you need to work it out. So survival income. So all of this in blue you need to keep your head above water and to basically keep going. So mortgage, loan repayment, insurance, utilities, council tax, vehicle cost, food, phone bill, pension. Now, if you've got a vehicle and say your missus has got a car and you need it for work, you need to include it. If you're using that vehicle for your job, it's a bit different. Now, I'm not going to go off in the rhubarb about everything here, because like I said, this is just what has worked for me. Take what you need from this. I think the actual way of doing it is fine. Maybe some people will say, oh well, yeah, you should include that differently, or that's a business expense, but this is just how I did it, and this has helped to get me on the right footing. So we're going into business now, guys. We're not doing this just to cover this. We need to have fun. So put a spreadsheet together, and I'll include one at the end. Not one of my own, but I'll put a link to it and I'll talk about it at the end. But we need to cover this, so we need to work out what these costs are. So stick all these costs down on a sheet. We're not doing this for charity or to help somebody out. So we want luxuries, holidays, eating out, Sky and Netflix, days out, hobbies. There's a billion more, but we need to be including these. So take a rough guess. If you want one holiday a year and it's a trip to Benidorm and it's £2,000 for 2 weeks, whatever, put that down. If you like eating out a lot, plan ahead for the whole year. We're doing a whole year here. This isn't a month, this is a whole year. Same as if you've got hobbies that are expensive, plan for them. Now, this will give you your total cost for a year. Now I'm going to call this A. So then we move on to the B costing. Now this is business. Now this is very subjective. Now I'm going to work out that somebody is just getting into it. So tools, vehicle, insurance, training, advertising, PPE, clothing, the list can go on. Anything that you'll need to run the business, you need to basically try and work it out. Now obviously we're doing all this so we can get a yearly price, and then we can divide it down, do some math, and we can get a rough hourly price. So it's not going to be like this all the time. If you decide to take the route that your tools are going to be £5,000, they're not necessarily going to be £5,000 a year. They could be if you keep continuing to grow. Now my business for the past 3 years, I've spent a lot of money on kit and PPE, well not so much PPE, but kit in general. And it's amazing where you could think, oh well, you know, £5,000 will get me the tools that I need to. Well, they'll break, you know, they need servicing, whatever. It's all coming out the tool pot, and you need to account for it, and you need to budget for it. Now all of this here, I basically added a little bit on. Now obviously, like I said, my costs are different, but your mortgage, your rent, just put a little bit extra on. Now obviously if you're sticking crazy amount, you're going to get a crazy hourly figure. You want to be honest with yourself, but you want to have a little bit of room. Don't undersell yourself. You know, if you want to live like a king, then include it. But if you want to live realistically, you know, you want to have a meal out a week, you know, you want to have a holiday a year. Like obviously when you're first starting out, you think, oh, I'm starting a business. Some people might think you'll be on holiday every other week, or you'll be taking all the winter off. It doesn't work like that. But we need to have some fucking joy in our lives, basically. So include it, but just add that little bit extra, just so you've got a bit of room, you know, because things are going to go up all the time. Now, business costs, tools, vehicle tax. Take a rough guess on what you're going to spend on each. Ring around for quotes. Training, if you want to go down a training route, do it. I would definitely recommend doing PA1, PA6. I did with chainsaw. Yes, it's useful, but it just covers your back further down the line. PPE and clothing, this is one where you might think no, but include it, because trust me, I go through a pair of boots at least once a year. I have bought shitter boots and I've gone through them 6 months. You've seen me, I'm no spring chicken. So, you know, I go through boots quickly. Clothing, you trash clothing. Headphones, it's like, I've just had to buy a new pair of Bluetooth headsets, £100. You know what I mean? New pair of boots, £100. It says advertising, that gets bigger than you think. Trust me on that. So add all this up, that's your yearly cost, and that will be your B cost. Now you then want to take your A and your B cost, add it all up, and that's your yearly cost, and that will frighten you. It is very scary when you think how much everything is all going to cost. Trust me, I had the exact same thing. What we need to do then is basically, and I put this in, it's technically not true, but it technically is true, because you basically, if you're in business, you've got a year to pay all that off. Now don't worry, when you're first starting out, trust me on this, you're not going to be making massive profit. I think they say 2 to 3 years before you're into, quote, profit, but you'll keep your head above water. You may not, but as I said, this is just about working your costs. I'm not going to tell you how to get into business, but you've got to be aware. But I put this in when I first started, 1 year to pay this off. As I said, I'm still paying stuff off because I'm reinvesting. I've not no debt, but I'm reinvesting stuff all the time. So when I look at my sheet, you know, every year I start off, you know, in the black when I start my new year, so in the red, because I'm constantly buying kit and improving kit, or I have been. So we've got 365 days a year. Now, like I said, we're not doing this to, you know, be slaves. So we want a holiday. Now, when I first started, I did 28 days holiday. Now, for me, I've not took 28 days holiday, but I put it down. Some people might want weekends off. You know, if you've got children, like me personally, I've got no children. I don't mind doing 6 days a week, 7 days a week. But when people are skint, money causes argument when you've got no money. But when you're making money and you've got no time, it still causes arguments. So there's no harm in being optimistic here, guys. So you want the weekend off, include it. Crap weather days, unplanned days off. It's this March, I've lost 7 days due to 5 of them was snow and 2 of them have been poorly. Sick days again, it's a big one. Now, I just took, basically chipped away, and it ended up being 220 days out of a year. Now, them 228 days, how many hours do you want to work out of a day? Now, when I first started, I put 9 to 5. Now, all of this, what we're doing, nothing is set in stone. But it's nice to have guidelines. It's nice that you know, shit, this is my actual cost per hour. This is my survival cost. It is. I'm not going to get into about hourly versus pricing. But no matter how we do it, we've all got an hourly cost. This is proving it. So I want to work 9 to 5. That's 8 hours a day. That's not really much, but it is what it is. So 220 times 8 is 1760 hours, 1,760 hours. Now the survival income, so all this, the business costs, all what we've done in these past 2 cards, survival income divided by the 1760 an hour, then gives you your survival rate. Now this is your rate. This is what you need to cover, basically. This is what you need to cover to keep your head above water, get that kit paid off, you know, keep them wheels turning, the fuel, the diesel, whatever. It's all included. Now, your survival rate, I was going to add all this up to give it a rate. So ignore the £10 because it might not be that, to be fair. That isn't mine. You know, I wanted to put a figure in to then make it easier. But it isn't, trust me. So your survival rate, it could be any number depending on you, but you will get a number, trust me. Now, you need to add tax onto that, so 25%. That's what I put. Now, you're covering your costs, yeah, but you need a living wage. It's up to you whether you want to earn minimum. It's up to you whether you want to earn £50 an hour, £30 an hour. But you need to get some form of wage. Now, I'll be honest with you, when the first year, 2 years of mine, the wage was really low. And some people might say, well, your actual take-home wage was under minimum wage. And it probably is for most of us self-employed folk. But if you're covering your costs, you're covering your living costs, and then you're taking home £6 an hour, £4 an hour, £2, £30, £100 an hour, whatever it is, then I personally value my freedom doing this job. Now, I'm not saying you're going to earn a shit wage doing this. Now, wage, and what I do is I set it aside, basically a little bit of extra money, including the hourly rate, to cover your vehicle, because you're going to need a new one after 5 years possibly. So get saving for it now. Your breakdown, your tool, your emergency. And there's one thing that people always seem to forget, and that's profit. It is. Now, I try, every single job I price up, I always try and include basically profit in with it as well. Now, sometimes, you know, sometimes you can put profit in if you're doing like big jobs, even if you're just doing an hourly job. Well, you've got to include some form of profit. So just, you know, even if you put in £2, £5, £10, whatever onto your hourly rate, include it. Because for me, I found it very, very satisfying knowing that no matter what I was doing on an hourly rate, it might not be where I was sticking to the ideal hourly rate, but I was close or I was over, whatever, because it's different for everybody, trust me. But knowing that what I was earning, I was covering my costs, I was covering, you know, a little bit of money was getting put in a separate bank account for vehicle, a little bit of money was getting put aside for tax, a little bit of money for breakdowns, winter, sick pay, whatever. Now, I've not included winter, but winter is one that you definitely have to save for. It's up to you how you save for it, but it's something you need to think about, because trust me, you can be rammed all summer, rammed all autumn, but winter time, people don't want to see you sometimes, but include it. Now, I'm not going to tell you, I didn't work it out because I didn't go through all the costings, purely because I don't want to set a sort of false narrative. I don't want to give you my hourly price because it's different to yours. And as I said, take what you want from this video. But Checker Trade says that the hourly rate for a gardener in my area, sorry, the national hourly rate for a UK gardener is £30 an hour. Now, there's or how much or something like that. I can't remember which one it was. If you type in how much is a gardener an hour, something like that, it's like, it's a site and it gives you the hourly rate for your area. Now, my area was £29. There were some areas that were £75 an hour. There were some areas that were £15 an hour. So it's such a, you need to go through all of this bollocks to get to it. There's no point just looking at something or looking at a YouTuber or looking at, you know, another gardener. Now, I spoke to another gardener in where I live, and he said to me, because we always get onto this when we talk to some gardeners. I don't like talking about money personally. That's why I try and keep it off a channel, because it sets a false narrative. And this gardener, he was talking to me, he was on about money, and he told me, he says, we like to earn £150 a day. And I said, so he says, yeah, me and my son. I said, oh, £150 each. He says, that's not bad. No, we like to earn £150. So that's £75 a person per day. He says, yeah. Now, was this guy BSing me so I can give him my price? Or is he BSing me so he thinks, you know, he's cheaper than he is? Because sometimes people pride themselves on being cheap. I don't know. But if we're taking it at his word, he was happy with that. But his son was a young bloke, and they had nice uniforms on, you know, they had a van. So they weren't some fly-by-night gardener, but that's what they were charging. Now, we all have customers where they'll expect you to work for £8 an hour, £10 an hour. But once you work your costs out, once you work out your business costs and factor in profit and money aside, you quickly realise that you're at a point where you're like, shit, I need to charge that much. And that's what I come up with. But that is the reality of it. There's going to be jobs where you will lose. No, you won't lose. As long as you keep to your survival rate or your hourly rate, you're not going to be losing money. But this is getting into a conversation of hourly versus, you know, fixed pricing. I don't want to go into that for this video. I've talked about that already. But there will be the manner and the way I have done this. There may be things that are wrong. I know I have skipped fuel out on business costs. I just come up with that at the end. So you need to factor in fuel. But when you're first starting out, how much fuel do you know? You don't know how much you're going to use. I'll tell you how much I use. If I'm power washing, I use 10 litres a day. If I, sorry, not 10 litres a day, I'll use 5 litres a day. I'll use a full can if I'm power washing. That's the jobs that I have. But then during the season, like no word of a lie, 5 litres will last me a month, because it only goes in the mower. I've got all cordless gear, and I've got a battery mower. Some people might say, well, why don't you include your charging of your electric costs? Well, I don't know that. you know, I can take a guess at it, but this all here is just to give you an outline. If you do some form of this, it will get you a much better answer than looking at what somebody else or speaking to some bloke. You know, you need to work out your costs, guys. It will help you, it will keep you on the straight and narrow. Now this video, yeah, 20 minutes, so I have banged on far too much. Now, as I said, if you've made it till the end, well, good on you. There's one more thing I'll do. Now, I went, and this might basically throw a bit of a spanner in works, but the one thing that helped me out, there's two things actually. When I first started my gardening business, and when I started it was 5 or 6 years ago, and time has moved on, because this is the bollocks for when I was first started, and I actually do flick through it. Now you can't swipe up on it or scroll. You actually have to, you know, it's a book. Right, come on, I'm fucking joking around. It's a book. Now this guy, Paul Power, so you can tell by his name, he helped me start my business. He's got a version of this in this, which is basically a lot better way of explaining it. So if you've got time and you're into books, I'm not a book guy, but if you're into books, the knowledge in here will help you out no end. It covers everything of starting your business, and it's UK. Now there's another one I want to tell you about, which is the Landscape Juice Network. It's a forum, people still post on it, and the questions on that and the answers on that, like, I know it's all Facebook groups now, but this was pre-Facebook group. They were like the OG, and I still look on there and I still flick through, because it's not just what's the best mower. You've got, it's like what I try and cover on my channel, a broad range. So look for the book, it does help out. The ISBN number's there, but literally Amazon will get you this book. I've got nothing to do with this bloke. I wouldn't know him from Adam. I don't know if it's him or him. I presume it's him. But it is a really, really good book, and it will help you out. And I do think it's current, even though it's a book. Or maybe it's her or him. I don't know. But have a look, guys. See what you think to it. And I hope it does help you and your business grow, especially if you're starting, because you need to get the little blocks at the beginning all sorted. And once you know what you're worth, you will not get talked down, or you will not get back down. It's up to you if you want to work for less than what you're worth, if you can justify it, but you'll know what you're worth. And then when that customer says to you, oh, my gardener can do it for 12, or the last bloke did it for 10, well, what life are they living? You know what it costs to run a house. You know what, if you want the extras, the holidays, you know, a good life, a good quality of life. From what I can gather, no matter how much money you get, it's the quality of life improves. So, you know, if you're covering that and you're enjoying yourself and you're managing to, you know, do what you want with the time that you get free, then that is it. So, yeah, sorry for banging on too much, guys, but I do think it's worth mentioning. So I hope this helps you guys. I really do. Any questions, drop me a line. But this book, the Landscape Juice Network, that's what got me to where I am now. And, you know, I really, really found a lot of good information with them. So hopefully you put your headphones for this, because this is a static view. Have a good day, guys, and keep on gardening.